and welcome to today's episode of the Daily Blend. I am your host, AC, and this year the Columbia Chamber of Commerce had their very first Nonprofit of the Year awards given out. And we are here today with the winners of the inaugural Chamber of Commerce Nonprofit of the Year, Heart of Missouri CASA. Yes. How are you both doing?
We're feeling pretty good.
I bet you are.
Yep.
You should be. You should be. So Kelly, you are the executive director of CASA, and Chris, you are the board chair.
Correct.
And we are so excited to have you guys here. Because what CASA does is very important to this community, and so we want to make sure everybody knows about it. So for somebody who may not be familiar, what is CASA?
Yes. Well, we're thrilled to be here as well and appreciate your help spreading the word. So CASA stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocates. CASAs are volunteers from the community who we train and support very intensely to be advocates for kids who are involved in the court and foster care systems because they've experienced abuse and neglect and have been removed from their homes. Mm-hmm. So their job is really to get to know them, they build a relationship with them, and they also participate in the family support team. And ultimately, they gather a lot of information and they make recommendations both to the team and ultimately to the judge in court, who is the ultimate decision maker on the case.
Mm-hmm. And so how nice it is to have for a child who's in that particular situation, not of their choosing.
Right.
But it's circumstances have brought them to that place. To have an adult that is there for them, to be their voice. And they do develop that relationship with them, which is a very important piece, right? Because the child sometimes can't speak up for themselves.
Right.
So and having somebody trained in that is amazing.
And they go through a lot of chaos while they're in foster care, even though the people involved in that system want to help them. They are not resourced and equipped enough to do that. So the system's really overwhelmed. So children move homes on average 5 times while they're in foster care. The caseworker and the attorneys change over frequently because of high caseloads. So a lot of times the CASA becomes that one consistent adult a child knows and relies on throughout that entire time in foster care, which is extremely important, especially when you think of, the average age of a child coming into foster care is 8.
Yeah.
That's a third grader.
That's a third grader.
Yeah.
That's a third grader.
Yeah.
Wow. Chris, how did you become involved with CASA?
So I was involved in the Change program in 2019. I had a colleague that was on the board at the time said, "Hey, you got a heart for service. Have you ever thought about serving for Heart of Missouri CASA?" My first question was, what's Heart of Missouri CASA? And I say that because it's true. And I also say it's because there's a lot of people in our community that just don't know about Heart of Missouri CASA. And so I'm coming over just over 5 years of service on the board. And it's been a game changer. There's a lot of folks that just have the privilege of just not interacting with agencies like ours, not finding themselves in circumstances like ours. So on one hand, we can celebrate that. That's a good thing.
Sure.
On the other hand, we can lament it because a lot of people just don't know. And, that's one of the things that we battle every day, trying to make people aware of the work that we're doing and how important that it is.
Yeah, it is. And, when you have kids of your own and you're aware of these kinds of situations, it really does make you look at things differently, right? And it really epitomizes when you sometimes say to your kid, "Oh, there are kids who don't have, truly, there are kids who are in the court system who do not have somebody to advocate for them."
Right.
And that's why what you guys do is so important.
Right.
So what do you need from this community?
Yeah, well, there's a couple big things we need. The first one is volunteers. We have about 200 active volunteers each year right now, which may sound like a lot, and it is, and they're amazing. They're serving about 400 kids a year, but we have over 650 kids in need. So we need about 100 more volunteers.
Okay.
And there are some specific types of volunteers we could use more of. We could specifically use more men. About 10% of our volunteer base is men, but half the kids in care are boys. And it's very meaningful to have a male in that role.
Yes, it is.
We need more African-American volunteers because unfortunately disproportionality is a big issue in our foster care system.
Yes.
And so that's huge for our kids to have that.
It is. And good for them to see. I truly I'm a firm believer that when children see people who advocate, people who give their time to support their community, that it fosters in them you hope that same kind of thing that grows
Right.
as they grow. And then hopefully they become an adult that
Yeah.
gives back. So it's really great for kids to be able to see that at this point. So do most CASAs have more than one?
They have
child?
one case.
Okay.
Well, they have one case at a time,
One case
which
at a
could be
time.
one child or it could be a sibling group.
Okay.
If it's a large sibling group, 4 or more, we'll typically put 2 volunteers on it because it's a lot of kids to get to know. And
Okay.
a lot of times they're in multiple different placements.
Okay.
So, but one case at a time.
Okay. So one case at a time. So good to know. And time commitment wise for volunteers, what does that look like?
So we ask them to serve for at least 2 years because that's the average amount of time a child's in foster care. Ideally, they stay on until the case closes. And it's about 8 to 10 hours a month.
Okay.
The foundation of that is the visits with the children, but it's also reading reports, participating in the team meetings, and going to court every few months,
Yeah.
depending on where we're at in the case. The training to get involved is 30 hours.
Okay.
It's half in person, half virtual. So if anybody would want to get involved, we do training 6 times a year. We do information sessions bi-weekly. Those are just 30-minute, no obligation Zoom sessions to just learn more and ask questions before somebody would apply.
Yeah, that's really good to know because I imagine some people might be intimidated when they hear this and say, I don't know anything about foster care or
You don't
court
have
case,
to,
right?
Yep, you don't have to. Yep.
You guys give them everything they need.
Yep. And they're very intensely supported by staff through the whole process.
Yes.
And we're talking about building relationships. You said something earlier that's really important, right? We're talking about folks that want to enter in kids' lives and be there for them to be a consistent part of their lives when life is just inconsistent for them
Yes.
at the time.
Yes.
And it goes a really, really long way to not only helping that one kid or those kids, but also our community as a whole.
That is absolutely true. It's absolutely true. So I love everything you've said. So if anybody's listening, they can go to homcasa.org
Yep.
and get more information. I'm sure they can call your office
Yes.
and talk to someone.
Yep.
But doing those informational, that's a good way to just kind of listen and see what's going
Exactly.
on. So don't
Yep.
be intimidated if you're listening.
Yep.
Get involved.
Yep.
Our kids need you.
Definitely.
Our kids
Thank
need
you.
Thank you guys so much, and congratulations on
Yeah.
Nonprofit of the Year.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.